Hello everybody. So, I'm about to do something a bit different, which is play on Magic Online, and I've done this a few times in the past. I've just started playing Commander on here with a very extremely budget version of my Grenzo deck. It's about $12 total, so very much reduced from the real paper form. And I thought I'd record some of these when I have time. This is technically the second game I played, but it ended in a pretty satisfying way, so I thought it was worth showing here. Alright, so I am playing Grenzo Dungeon Warden, as will be usual. My opponent's on Atraxa Praetor's Voice. Now, in general, this is going to be Super Friends, possibly stacks, depending, but casual builds will end up being Super Friends. I'm playing Grenzo, not a particularly strong version, since I don't really want to pour a lot of money into cards I already own in paper right now. But in general, same basic deck build that I've shown in the write-up, which I will link in the description. Now this hand obviously isn't very capable. We have a land that doesn't produce colors, we have Mana Dork that we can't cast. I'm gonna throw that right back and get a new one. I end up with a relatively slow hand. Definitely enough lands to keep me satisfied for a long while, as well as Pawn of Ulamog and a Hearthstone, both pretty potent combo pieces. So I figure as long as my opponent doesn't get too out of hand with his first few turns, this should be perfectly reasonable to keep, and of course I'm sending that swamp right to the bottom. So, opponent starts off with a temple card untapped. I draw a duplicate, which will hopefully be nice to deal with Atraxa at some point. If it gets out of hand, fetch a swamp, and pass back. And these first few turns are relatively uneventful. Now with the Hideaway I see triple swamp and anger, and of course I'm going to put a swamp underneath the Hideaway and anger on the bottom, but this isn't very good, so I'm going to be looking to shuffle my library as soon as possible. Opponent plays a Bayou, and passes back. Now at this point I sort of figure that my opponent's playing a fairly decent version of Atraxa, since the original duels are something that you spend a little bit more to invest in than the shocks, and they just go ahead and cast Atraxa after I slapped on Hearthstone. Now they don't deal with the Hearthstone, which I consider definitely a good thing. It either means that they don't have the cards in their hand to deal with it, or they don't consider it a threat, which says not very much for their threat assessment at this stage. So they're just going to cast Atraxa and I guess put a clock on me. Now, as far as Atraxa goes, this is a very potent clock. I don't have a huge number of flyers in this deck, or a huge number of ways to kill black creatures, but I do have the duplicate in my hand, and I think that that's going to deal with it eventually. But first we'll see how this goes. So what I draw is Pilgrim's Eye here. Now, as I said, I'm looking to shuffle my library, I'm looking to hit land drops that come in untapped, so I'm actually going to just cast Pilgrim's Eye, get a mountain, and using that mountain, play the Mog Fanatic. And what I'm thinking here is that I'm not going to block Atraxa immediately, I'm going to wait to get down Pawn of Ulamog, and block with Pilgrim's Eye. That'll produce a mana later, which with Hearthstone is a flip on its own. So that's my value plan as it's going, and since I do assume this is Super Friends, Mog Fanatic can hopefully ping down Planeswalkers as we go. So we get the Atraxa swing. I take the first piece of commander damage here. And they drop an Oath of Nissa, revealing a Tamiyo Field Researcher, which is actually pretty terrifying. So given that Atraxa is a very large vigilance creature, I have to run a lot of things into Tamiyo to damage it at all, and while doing that he's going to be drawing cards since Atraxa is on the field. Now that said, if you're a very astute viewer and you happen to know my cards fairly well, you'll notice a very particular card in my hand, which is Zealous Conscripts. And Zealous Conscripts is rather unique among red threaten effects in that it doesn't take control of a creature, it takes control of a permanent, as you can see. So my plan at this point is to wait until he gets to ult level with Tamiyo, which will be 8 counters, and then just steal it with Zealous Conscripts and take the ultimate for myself. So that's my entire game plan at this point. I'm really hoping that my opponent taps out next turn, and I'm free to do that unimpeded. I'm just going to play some more lands with Solemn. If this doesn't go through, I have a lot of fodder for Pawn of Ulamog and Hearthstone out, so I can hopefully flip into some things with Grenzo. But I'm really hoping that this is going to be the game plan. So he pluses Tamiyo on Solemn and Pilgrim's Eye, perfectly reasonable. And of course I'm not going to block there. No reason to let my opponent draw a card when I'm saving to block for when Pawn of Ulamog is out. So I'll take an additional 4, and hope that my opponent plays a card. And in fact they do. Now what they play here is Jason Raveler of Secrets, able to be cast via Oath of Nissa. And Jason's going to come down and just plus up. And this is about the best scenario I could have asked for. So with the Proliferate, selecting Tamiyo and Jace, they're going to go up. Jace is almost at ult level, but not quite. But I'm going to be able to ult the Tamiyo myself. and with this hand that's going to be kind of bonkers. So, Conscripts comes down, takes the Tamiyo, ults the Tamiyo, draw 3 cards, including Dread Return, Talisman, Swamp. So the plan here is, of course, to play land, play Talisman for free, play Pawn of Ulamog for free, play Duplicant for free, play Grim Haruspex for free, cast Grenzo, start flipping, and then I can do some really intense stuff. So what happens here is that when I have Pawn of Ulamog out and Grim Haruspex out, Dread Return in the graveyard is a draw 3, make 3 mana. And I'll be able to cast it for free with Tamiyo's Emblem. So the plan here is going to be something like sack Mog Fanatic to ping down Pilgrim's Eye, or more likely to ping down Tamiyo. Mog Fanatic dies, I get a token that produces mana, that I can cast Dread Return, bring back Mog Fanatic, sack it again, then flash back Dread Return, get 3 more mana, draw 3 more cards, all of which can be cast for free. So I'm basically storming off with my opponent's Tamiyo Emblem at this point, which I'm very happy to be doing. Certainly a lot of fun for me. But my opponent just concedes because they have, they're fighting against the thing that they were trying to do, and I got to do it, and they don't want to watch that play out. So that was just pretty fun. I always like to see Zealous Conscripts take things that aren't creatures and do things besides just comboing off. It's a very potent card. And of course, it's always fun for me to win a game without casting Grenzo. That so rarely happens. So this was just a fun replay, and I'm hoping to do more of these in the future on Magic Online. So, have a good one.